Welcome to the 5:30 show, which is now the 5:40 show. So, thank you. So my name is Gary Senft, Fishing with Gary Senft. I have a YouTube channel and TV show. So I'm probably the last demonstrator, pro, that's going to be up here. What I'm going to talk to you about is Arizona spring tips on how to catch fish. And this is a good place to teach you because the fish are very hungry and they haven't eaten in probably 2 days or 3 days. So a lot of times when you guys go fishing, there's a lot of different baits that you use. If you go fishing and you go out and you have a fantastic fishing trip, one time, you go back the next day or 2 days later, you go to the same place and you go, man, what happened to all the fish? We caught 20 fish here. Where'd they go? Well, as you know, fish swim, right? But they also swim towards their dinner table. So they follow the bait wherever they go. It doesn't matter if you're in California, Arizona. Whoa, that was good, huh? So a lot of times if I'm there in the morning, what I like to start with is like a little crankbait. But during the winter time, this has a lot of rattles in it. And it's a lipless crankbait. I don't know if you can hear that, but they're waving from the back room so they can hear it. Anyway, this has a lot of rattles in it. It's called a rattle trap. This sends out a lot of vibration through the water. And I guide on Bartlett Lake, just 40 miles north of here. So the water's very dirty because the water's coming down a lot. So it's harder to catch those fish when it's dirty water. So even though a bass can see 5 times greater than you can see or I can see, so if it's 1 foot deep and I can see my lure 1 foot down, they can see 5 feet. This is probably 6 feet, so they're looking a long ways at your bait falling down. If it's 6 inches, well, you know what? You better have something that makes a little bit of noise, and that way they can catch a few more fish. So if it's real dirty, you want to be throwing something that has a little rattle in there so that they can hear it. Now this doesn't have any hooks, but you can see those bass will attack this thing as I reel it in. So this does give out a lot of vibration. Yesterday we were using this up at Bartlett Lake. We caught 33 bass. Not all on this, but on the stuff I'm going to show you what they caught them on. But one of my clients caught the biggest crappie he's ever caught in his life on this. Pretty good sized crappie for Arizona. So we weren't fishing for crappie, but we caught that accidentally. So a lot of times this sinks, so you can let this sink to the bottom if it'll get to the bottom in this here. And on a normal crankbait, it has a lip on it, but this is called a lipless crankbait. It has no lip at it at all. So you can actually let this go to the bottom 20, 30 feet, 15 feet, whatever you want. The ideal is to make a long cast, let it go down to where the fish are, and then just reel it in slow. Now, you'll see these fish hit this, and sometimes you can make your retrieve fast, slow. You can start retrieving it right away. Then you can stop like this and just kill it, and those fish will attack it. Other times I've had times when I've been out there and they wouldn't hit this at all. They would just let it hit the bottom and reel it in nothing. So then you got to try different things. So I'd rip it up like this and just let it fall back down. Rip it up, let it fall back down. And sometimes you're getting those fish's attention on waking them up a little bit. And the same goes with worms and brush hogs and creature baits, whatever you're using. So they're not hitting this as good as they were yesterday. They were hitting this pretty good yesterday and the day before. Not yesterday, the day before. So usually I let it go down 5 or 10 feet. I'll look on my graph and I'll see where those fish are located, how deep they are, if they're suspended or they're on the bottom. I like to keep my boat about 20, 25 feet deep, and then that way just enough for us to throw to the shore to catch these fish. So I'm going to use a couple other things here to show you guys I fish a lot of bait too, but the clients like to start out with a rattle trap, or they like to start out casting, you know, crankbaits. So that was a rattle trap, lipless crankbait. And now we're going to use a Texas rig, okay? Now, when the fish do not want to chase anything, and I don't have a hook tied on this, so when they don't want to chase anything, a lot of times, and you're not catching them on a crankbait, or you're not catching them on a spinnerbait, or nothing moving, you want to use something that the fish will hit on the bottom. So this is called pitching, what I'm doing. I take this off, I put it down to my reel like this, I drop my rod, and I just pitch it out there. If you're using a bait caster, now you can see they picked that up right away, right? I've already had a bite. I got one swimming with it. I can feel him because my line is so sensitive, my rod is so sensitive, I can feel that fish just swimming around. He doesn't even know he's hooked. Now he does now, since I put a little pressure on him. Yeah, there he goes, he let go of it. I was messing around with the camera guy over here, and we were getting shots in. One of them wouldn't even give it back. I had to grab him and take it out and put him back in. But this is called a brush hog. I'm real good at brush hog fishing. Okay, our lakes are like a lot of brush hogs. This is a 4.5-inch brush hog. And one of my little secrets I like to do is I like to spike the tail. Okay, I like spiking that tail with a spike it. It's a chartreuse dye, and it dyes that tail. And people always say, why are you spiking it like that? Well, bluegills have a little blue on the side, so look at them pick that up. They wouldn't hit the crankbait, but they'll sure hit this bait, won't they? Look at that. They won't leave it alone. So I use this bait kind of like a search bait sometimes, you know, just to see what they're biting on. They're usually biting on this, so I throw it out. I try to keep a tight line, because 90% of the time when you first cast it in there, you get a bite. Now he's just pulling on that. Look at that. He's running with that thing. He's almost pulling drag. So if you're using a spray, they will hang on to that bait just a little bit longer than if you don't use one. So if you're getting a bite, if you throw it out, you get a bite, and you set the hook, and you go, oh man, you know, I missed another one. You know, sometimes you got to set that hook right away, because, you know, the little ones will come up and aggressively bite that bait. So as soon as you feel that tick or that bait hit the fish hit it, boy, set the hook, okay? Because when you feel the tick, that is in the fish's mouth. You don't want them to keep biting and swallow the hook, because then you got to dig it out of their mouth. So it's going down, 90% rule, it hits the bottom, there's my fish. Okay? He missed it. So, okay, I'm just going back down, I keep a tight line. Oh, she's checking it out. She's gonna let me know if I get one. All right. So he pulled my skirt down, my brush hog. So I rig these things what they call Texas style, so that the hook is buried inside the bait, because bass hang around structure, whether it's a point, a rock, a tree. They love to ambush their bait. If there's no trees, then they'll hang around rocks, and they'll lay off the side of a point, and as that bait swims by, they just go right up and they snatch their food. So that's another key thing that you need to do if you're in a boat. Watch your depth binder. Okay, it's sinking 90% of the time. Now on that 90%, they didn't bite it. So sometimes, whoop, there he goes, now he bit it. Okay, so during the winter time, these bass are very lethargic. Okay, they're cold-blooded. They hate cold water. So if it's very, very cold and it's 50 degrees or 48 degrees, the water, they do not want to take that bait very much. So oh, look at that, we got one on. And another one on. Man, they don't bite this good at the lake, do they? They never bite this good when you're at the lake. I really have to work for my fish all the time, you know. So when I get done coming up here, I'm gonna save a few extra minutes, because I do have some tricks that I'm gonna show you that when the bass do not bite, and I mean, how many of you went out there? You went out there, took your best buddy, took your wife and said, man, honey, we got to go back. You know, the bass were biting right and left. You know, it's going to be great. You're going to catch fish. You know, I know all the guys are smiling at their wives right now, and they're going, yeah, I heard that one. I heard that one. Well, then when you go back out with your honey and you go fishing and you don't catch any fish, you know, you got to do something different. Do you guys like to eat the same thing every night? Tacos? You got to figure out, well, they change colors. If you were using green one day, use brown the next day. Okay? So they're not biting on a Texas rig. Well, get off there. Boy. Do they hang on to this bait for you when we go fishing? No, never. Okay. So, folks, I've got a lot of tricks that I use, and I like to use what they call bobber stoppers. And I know you can't ask me a question right here, but I can show you, take my tackle box down there and show you what it is. It's just a little rubber stopper, and it stops that weight from sliding up and down on the line like this. Well, guess what? I put one on the top of the weight, and I put one on the bottom. So now I'm thinking, whoa, I'm going to have a Carolina rig. How easy is that? You guys that fish, you know how bad it is to change over to a Carolina rig. You got to have you got to have a, well, I did have a Carolina rig, but you got to have a swivel, you got to have a bead, you got to have your weight, and then you got to tie it up above. Well, with my bobber stoppers, you don't need to do that. You don't have to do that. You can make it into a Carolina rig, you know, just that easy. So a Carolina rig is where the bait trails behind the weight about. It could be 10 inches, could be 20 inches. We got one already. Yeah, look at that one. He's really pulling. So I'm using a really, really light rod, guys. I mean, I like to use a light rod with a very fast tip for this reason right here. And when I take my clients out, I like doing the same thing, because what more fun is it to be using a light rod and catch a bass, you know, instead of a real heavy rod that you can't hardly feel the fish bite, right? So we're just going to cast this back out. Remember, this is a Carolina rig, and boy, that one fish messed my spool up, huh? Okay, so yesterday or last week I was out on a Wednesday, and those fish quit biting. I mean, they just quit biting. We were catching one after another on Texas rigs, and they quit. Well, what happened? So the client goes, wow, that's unusual why that would happen. What happened? So where did the fish go? We were catching them in 5 feet of water, you know. Well, all of a sudden, it's 64.9% degrees. It was almost 65 degrees. A cloud came over, an actual cloud in Arizona, you know, and the wind started blowing, and it cooled the water temperature down 2 degrees. 2 degrees, that's all. And the fish quit biting. I mean, tell you, we went 30 minutes, and 3 of us were, whoa. We were throwing baits and right and left, and we couldn't get a bite. And the guy goes to me, he says, well, what are we going to do now, fishing pro? And I says, we're going out deeper. The fish pulled off the side. The water temperature dropped 2 degrees. We're going to go back. I'm going to use my graph, and we're going to find them out in 10, 12 feet of water. Well, turned the boat out, went out there looking for the fish. Sure enough, there they were. They were out there just moping around. So we started catching them again. Folks, it wouldn't be fun if you went out and caught fish after fish after fish. Well, maybe it would, you know, maybe it would be fun for a while, but I should say sometimes we do that. But you know, it's fun to think about what happened to these fish. Why did they react the way they do? It's because it's wintertime. It's because the water's cold. You know, it's because you would think these fish were my pets, wouldn't you? You would think that Why are they so lethargic? Because they're cold-blooded. In cold water, a bass loves 67, 68 degrees. That's where that fish likes to go when he spawns. Okay, so we had 67-degree water yesterday, so guess what? Love was in the air. Yep, it was. So those fish are coming out of 10, 15 feet of water, and they're going up to look for a mate and build a nest and have their babies. So, whoa. So you guys got the idea can you guys see that fish just, I don't even know if he thinks he's hooked yet, but he's just kind of swimming around. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to slide that back down. Bobber stoppers, you can buy them everywhere, guys. You can buy them at the tackle stores. You can buy them at Bass Pro Shop. You can buy them at Sportsman. They're called a bobber stopper. And if you're interested, when I come down, I'm going to show you how to put those on. Because some guys are like, hey, I don't get what you mean, you know, and they'll look at it. And once I show them, they'll go, oh, yeah, now I get it, you know. That's pretty easy. Yeah, it is easy, you know. So let's see. We used 2 baits already. So say the fish got tired of this bait, okay? They get tired of this, which they haven't, but let's just say they did. They quit biting. Now, I'm going to switch over to something else. There's a new bait called a Ned bait, Ned rig. Now this bait is simply a bait. No, actually this isn't the Ned rig. This is a flick shake bait. This is another one of those baits that's good, okay? So I'm actually on these spinning rods. If you guys fish spinning rods and you're tired of your line coming off your reel and being a mess all the time, if you use a braid up here, you'll never have that mess. It'll never come off your reel. You can cast it and cast it for a year. You don't even have to change your line anymore, you know? So Lars out there, Lars, he could tell his dad, he said, hey, you know what, this guy says braid's good. Don't buy pink though, that's for girls, okay? I'm just using pink on there because you never know when I have a little girl on the boat and she wants to use pink line, you know. I tried to give it to this guy yesterday on the guide trip. He gave it back to me and said, I'm not using pink. He wanted green. So anyway, what I'm going to show you right now, it came from Japan. And this bait, let's use something big. Let's use a big worm, okay? Let's put these fish to a test. They'll probably eat this and swallow it, but I'm going to put it on anyway. Actually, I'm going to bend the hook a little bit more. Oh, there we go. All right. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to put this wacky style. Wacky means in the middle of the worm so that it looks, I can't show you in the water because he's going to grab it and eat it. So I'm going to cast this out. It's got a little weight on it. This came from Japan. Probably about 5 years ago. Oh boy, did he like that. Look at that. He thought he had a dinner there. So what it is, it's a Yamamoto Senko from Japan. And if you're not catching fish, this is a good way to catch fish. I mean, they always bite on this one. So to get my gist to you, if you're not catching fish, there's always a way to catch these fish. Don't give up. Change colors, change techniques. Come on now, see, you see how they like to grab this and they just swim around with it? And as you start to reel up and your line gets tight, you need to set the hook. I know some of my clients have heard that. Probably one of the hardest things, guys, that I've heard when we're Texas rigging is when you feel that tick, you literally have to pop your wrist. Don't start reeling like this. You got to pop it because that hook has to go right in that upper lip. So you got to get used to that. Pop that wrist, okay, to catch that fish. You can actually pull it up. You actually can pull that rod up, and I'll show you. You can actually just pull it up like this, and the fish will hang on to it because you guys saw them hanging on to there, but you won't hook them. When they come to the surface with a real hook, they'll jump and they'll get off, all right? Oh. One more cast with this. So this This bait is really easy to work. It's real easy. You just cast it out, throw it out. Oh, look at that guy already. He came out under the bridge. Man, that was one of the bigger ones, huh? Maybe an inch bigger than the rest of them. I see all those guys down there on the other side. I don't know if you can see them hiding under those 2x4s or whatever it is over there. Man, he came charging out of there like nobody's business. All right, let me show you what I invented 4 years ago. All right, because my time's getting, I don't know if the Gestapo guy that's in charge of this is still here. I think he left, so he probably doesn't care how long I take. Thursday, I talked for 50 minutes, and he goes, God, you're long-winded. He says, my God, I can't even get the other pros to even talk. He says, they come up here, and they just stand here, and they're trying to think of things to think. I go, they haven't been fishing for 30 years, you know? I've been fishing for, whoops, all right, I got one already. So I said, you know what? These people are starved for information on fishing. So, friends, this is drop shot. If you've never used it, the drop shot is the most popular way to catch a fish, okay? Drop shot. But I got a secret, all right? I invented this way to tie no knots. Right now, I have like 14 or 15 inches between the lead and the bait, right? Well, normally I only like to use 10 inches. So since I'm not going to tie a polymer knot, look what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this hook and this bait, and I'm going to slide it down to 10 inches. You can't do that with a normal drop shot because it's tied on there on a polymer knot. But with my inventions of bobber stoppers, you can move this bait to whatever depth you want. It can be 6 inches, can be a foot, can be 2 foot, you know. All right, now, not because I'm feminine and I was using pink line the last time, okay? Now I'm using a pink worm. So this little girl's like saying, uh-oh, what's wrong with this guy? He's a senior citizen, you know. If I could buy one worm out of 5 million worms at the Bass Pro Shop, 5 million worms, I would buy this pink worm. Why? I don't know. I don't know. They're not all females at the lake that bite this. You know, a lot of them are males, but this pink worm is called Morning Dawn. It's made by Robo Worm right here in California, the good old USA, and it's got salt made into the rubber. And you're going, yeah, big deal, salt, right? Who cares? Well, the bass care, they love salt. You know what they also like? Garlic. Garlic and salt. So it's got salt inside. When they grab onto it, they hold onto it just a little bit longer so the people that don't set the hook. So I'm just playing with it. I can feel that fish grab this as soon as I threw it in there because I got a very, very, very limber rod. I mean, look at the tip on this thing. It just bends over. I can feel them when they first put their mouth on it. So come on, cough it up. Ah, one spits it up and the other one grabs it. I know you want it, but... All right, so Robo Worm, Morning Dawn. This one is Morning Dawn with not chartreuse on it, with just pink. That's the #1 worm I would use out of the 5 million worms at the Bass Pro Shop, okay? Now, Robo Worms are probably been my favorite. I've been fishing professionally for 30 years. I probably just fish this, I let it go to the bottom just like a Texas rig, and I work that bait in like this, very slowly. But you can see, it doesn't smell like salt or anything, but you know what, a gentleman, he's not here, a gentleman asked me, he says, hey, he says, what about putting a scent on your hands or your bait? You know, like if I chew tobacco or I smoke. And I go, well, that, you know, if you just had some chew and you put it in there and you're touching that, it would probably decide what kind of chew did you chew with mint or did you chew with some other stuff they don't like. But I would use a spray. I like garlic, you know, and a bang. bang spray, but you know, I've used about every single spray that you can imagine. Look at that. I didn't even spray this thing, and this guy's just eating this. Oh, another one just ate it. Man, I guess I'm gonna have to go fishing tomorrow. Man, they're biting. The weather must be changing outside. So we're just gonna throw that out. And another fish. Oh, that's a golfer. We got a golfer in the audience. All right. Can you imagine a guy wear a Titleist hat, you know? Don't worry, I used to golf. I was not very good at it. So I still like to go golfing. So anyway, the big thing is, guys, at night, if you night fish, you know, with this bobber stopper, I'll be glad to show you what they look like and rig this up and show you, you know, this little trick. This is something, if you night fish, that you know, you can, at nighttime, guess what? The bass quit eating shad and they want to eat crawdads. So, you know, they're right on the bottom eating these crawdads off the bottom. So you don't have to use a rubber worm. You actually can use a crawdad imitation on a drop shot or something. But guess what? You got to slide that bait down to where that fish is going to see that. So I can just slide that right down, yeah, 2 inches off the bottom. And you guys that fish are going, man, this guy's nuts, man. He's going to use that 2 inches, 3 inches off the bottom. Well, what do you guys use? You use Texas rig on the bottom, you know. So, but these fish, they probably might hit this on the very bottom. I didn't get a bite, though. I've been getting a bite at every cast. Oh, there's one. Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of tricks, what I'm trying to get to you guys. When I come down, why don't I just come on down, allow some time for you guys to come up and ask some questions. Oh, another thing, when you guys use spinning reels like this, to make your spinning reels last longer, you know, you cast it out like this, your line goes out, you're using braid, you'll never get tangled again. Another thing with that bobber stopper trick like that, you won't get all tangles anymore. You won't have to fight that thing anymore. This braid always casts perfect all the time. In fact, it casts too perfect. You got to be careful so you don't land up on the shore. But what I was going to say with this spinning rod is, you know, you'll open the bail, you throw it out. I like to use my finger to stop it, but I put the bail over by my hand like this because if you reel it shut, your $100 reel, $120 reel, you're going to ruin it in no time, okay? Another thing I'd like to stress to you is I'm kind of like the working man and senior citizen and poor division like the rest of you, you know. Golfers and fishermen are alike, you know, they don't like to spend a lot of money on their gear. If you spend your money, spend it on a rod. Hear that, Lars? A rod. Not the reel, the rod. Where's your dad at? Oh, there he is. Buy a rod that's sensitive, okay? You don't have to spend, I got rods $400 or $500. You don't have to spend $400 or $500. You can go down and get a really nice rod like this for $110, you know. And I don't care what kind of reel you put on there. You can just put a little $39, $49 cheap, you know, Fluger on there or a Bass Pro Shop reel. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for attending my seminar. If you want to talk to me I'll come down below here and I'll talk to you and show you some of the stuff that I did. But thanks for coming to the boat show today, the ISE show, and listening to us. I'll be back tomorrow. All of us will be back tomorrow and giving you more. So this concludes the seminar. I want to thank all you viewers out there that are watching this for tuning in to Fishing with Gary show. Thanks for watching.